I'm Helen Thomas. I'm with AnyQuest. It's my great pleasure today to have David Smith. He is the founder and the CEO of Inflow Analysis. David, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, I'd love for you to give a quick introduction of your background, especially your, experience at Gartner, which is really the thought leader and influencer on the enterprise, software technology industry.
Sure. So David Mario Smith, my name is, David Smith, the most common name in the world. So I'm glad my mom put a unique middle name in there, Mario. So that works, right? So yeah, as Helen mentioned, I am originally started my career, especially the analyst stuff at Gartner. And I was at Gartner for 16 years or over 16 years. And my first coverage area, I used to call it my beat, right? At Gartner was email messaging. So it kind of dates me a little bit, right? Because I was covering Microsoft, Outlook Exchange, IBM Lotus Notes. Remember that? Like it's a dinosaur now, right? And the emerging Gmail from Google at the time, which was like threatening the status quo of IBM and Microsoft. So started email messaging and then sort of morphed into fuller communication. So UC collaboration, conferencing, web and video and so forth. So basically just how collaboration and communications impacted the digital workplace is what I've sort of morphed into.
That's incredible. And it's really essential now. And as a matter of fact, because of digital and the technology in terms of content generation, all of that, emails are becoming more of a commodity versus like mainstream communication, as everybody receives so much emails, and we call most of them junk mails, and people don't even get engaged. So this is a kind of a good pivot into, given your Gartner background, if you were an analyst today, how would you look at artificial intelligence, particularly generative artificial intelligence, in terms of its impact? What's your worldview on that in the context of enterprise use cases?
Yeah, I think, in AI, right now it's like AI all the time, right? And Gen AI is the new buzzword that everyone's sort of engaged with, and every tech vendor is deploying we have a new feature, AI feature, right? And what it all boils down to, I think, and I think we'll get into this even more later, is the AI intersection with humans, right? For so long it was always about the robots are going to help us, do things like, wash the dishes and do laundry, right? And from a AI perspective, right? And so we've been to restaurants where you'll see the robots help with bussing tables and getting dishes and bringing them to the dishwasher and so forth, and even serving tables, right? Now, but I think what happened is now that the robots or the AI now is getting involved in stuff like, okay, not only can we help you with some stuff like that, now people are using the AI to actually write the poetry and the art. And so, no, the humans were supposed to take care of the art and the creativity stuff, but now we're seeing the AI sort of morph over into that. And when we get into the business domain, right, I think my worldview sort of centers on the AI. To me, represents the tremendous opportunity for enterprise to become more efficient, data-driven, and innovative, right? We're already seeing AI power solutions, in areas like predictive maintenance, fraud detection, and in my particular area, in personalized customer experiences. So that's where my coverage sort of leans toward, right? We're seeing where, you can now, with AI, begin to impact how employees, agents who deal with customers, and now customers themselves are actually experiencing that brand. And so while there are challenges like, bias and, and explainability exist, I think continuous research and responsible development are fostering more trust and paving the way for a future where AI can seamlessly collaborate with humans to achieve, I think, remarkable things.
Well, you really had a lot in just what you talked about in terms of transparency, responsibility, and collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And so So let's talk about your current, do you call it a consulting business, or,
Yeah,
the inflow analysis? So what's
yeah.
your founding, um, you know, founding theory, or the founding vision and mission for your company? And how do you help
Mhm. Yeah,
corporations and professionals?
sure. Yeah. So it's, it's funny coming from Gartner,
Yeah,
being analyst forever, right? So and there's no Gartner analyst that's worth his salt unless he has a deck to actually explain what he does. And so,
I-
keeping in true form and fashion, you can take the analyst out of Gartner, but you can't take the Gartner out of the analyst. I do have a couple of slides that can help me, I guess, explain if
yes,
I can
please.
share,
Yes,
you
please.
know, what I do here. So let me pull that up, and here we go. And so if you look at how, and
It's
let
now
me,
sharing yet, by the way.
yeah, there it
Okay,
is
it's
now,
coming.
right?
Okay, here it is.
There we go, right? And so if you look at how I look at the workplace, right? If you look at every business process, right? It involves, if you look at this particular slide here, it involves, people that are internal and external to the company, right? They're internal actors, whether it's, sales, marketing, HR, and then there's external actors, right? Suppliers, partners, clients, right? Prospects, and so forth. And this particular process deals with sort of a contract renewal, but this could be any process, in the enterprise. And so my view of when I look at the digital workplace and what we cover at Inflow Analysis is that technology, and the reason why I call it Inflow, technology has to be in the flow of how people work, not out of flow, above flow, or below flow. It has to be in the flow of how people work. So this process that involves people really says that each process are sets of interactions between people, internally and external to the organization. And then below this particular picture here, you see there's the security layer where you have to begin to identify and authenticate as a person. There's presence, there's location, there's non-repudiation, and so forth. And as you go further down, there is the overall technology ecosystem that then empowers that process, right? So my center of gravity, I start with communications and collaboration, right? So you have, again, each process involves these little interactions between people that then further the process. What enables interactions? Communications and collaboration technology. So whether that's, video, shared workspaces, persistent chat, messaging. We talked about email before, right?
Yeah,
Team collaboration, community spaces, or even some of the funky acronyms that we've developed and being formerly Gartner, I've been, aided in developing a lot of acronyms. Sorry for that, but UCAS and CCAS, right? All
right.
these communication and collaboration acronyms, those are what begin to enable and further these processes to enable people to interact. And so you go this IT ecosystem, right? And then you see from the process side, whatever you're using from a project management perspective, scheduling, calendaring, and then the specific line of business apps that's powering, these particular processes and workflows. And then you cross over into some of the resources and what's the sort of contextual user interface that allows me to access this technology, right? What's my entry point? How do I begin to gain analytics and so forth from the process, from the data? So you have analytics, AI, BI, what's the archive that we're pulling this on? And then with every business process, you're either collaborating or working around content or creating content to then output from the process. So what are the content creation tools, the content services, the repository that's involved in that? And so what we're picturing here is pretty much a reference architecture that when I begin to advise clients and even vendors and so forth to think of their collaboration or their digital workplace architecture from the standpoint of everything within this picture has to be able to work together from a workflow perspective, right? Whatever
Yeah,
technology you bring in here, it won't be all one vendor, but whatever vendors you bring here have to be able to plug and play nicely in this particular architecture, right? And then once you have that situated, the next slide then looks, okay, what are these technologies? What are these sort of brands, these vendors, and how do you look at them from a broader digital workplace perspective? So I look at the workplace as a spectrum, and that sort of spans from the employee experience and support side to the customer experience side. And every technology sort of has to fit within this sort of framework. And again, my center of gravity is communication and collaboration, because again, that's what enables every particular process, whether it's HR and recruiting, or direct employee experience stuff, whether it's CRM, marketing automation, whatever it is, and then the content involved. Everything sort of hinges on being able to interact with actual physical people, and that's where I think the communication and collaboration is sort of the center of my universe, and I think the center of the world. But that's what powers the digital workplace and all the different business processes within the workplace. Again, this is just my overall view of how I see the workplace and where inflow analysis. Again, every process, every technology has to be infused and be in the flow of how people are actually working to actually enable them to get their jobs done and to work efficiently.
This is a fascinating, and I think we can spend almost like half a day just to talk about this. So let me just ask a quick question related to artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
How much of this, you can call it landscape or reference
Mhm.
architecture, how much of this has been influenced or impacted by AI, and how do you see this will be, impacted by AI moving forward?
Yeah, exactly. So if again, every single vendor you see listed here, as in the past year, past couple years, announced their new enhanced features. So if you look at the
Right,
middle here, right, with from Zoom to Microsoft, the Cisco,
right.
WebEx, 8x8, Ring Central, Google, Zoho, right?
Yeah.
It's like they've all enhanced. They've all sort of presented features that allow the humans who are using the technology to be more efficient. So whether that's task automation, doing meeting summaries from meetings. Imagine you're a contact center agent, right? And you're dealing with a customer in real time, and you want to be able to have a summary of that call to be able to really categorize what happened on that call for the customer, right? To have summaries, that the ability to have meetings and notes being taken from a customer conversations, right? Those things become key, and that's where I think the human and AI collaboration and interaction becomes really interesting, because if you can begin to sort of take those mundane tasks away from the human, have them focusing on the real interaction with the customer, have them focusing on the real meat of the customer experience, then those things become those aid and become way more efficient to me. Yeah.
So how much is it opportunity for newcomers, for new companies versus existing enterprise software companies or vendors adding AI? Where do you think the entry point could be for new innovation?
Yeah, I think the innovation has to be, and it's a great question, because I think back to where I was saying with different vendors now announcing their new features for AI,
Yeah.
we got to a point in this year, because I'm on the heels of coming from every vendor conference. I was just at Enterprise Connect a couple weeks ago,
Mhm.
different vendor conferences, and everyone's gonna talk about their new features. But I think the focus has to be around, okay, with all the features, what are those specific use cases
Mhm.
that AI can be brought to bear upon? Like I just mentioned, contact, center process, right? Customer
Right.
support, with customer agent, employee, customer facing employee, and a customer prospect or whatever. Those are the use cases. Those are the places where you want to bring AI to bear, where it can actually aid the process, make it more efficient. That can also enhance the employee experience as well as the customer experience at the same time. So it's AI where it matters, in the interaction zone between employees themselves and between employees and customers.
How much do you think this theory of collaboration, having human AI, collaborating in this
Mhm.
enhancement,
Mhm.
is accepted in the industry right now? Where do you think the general
Mhm.
enterprise industry related to this underlying thesis, where
Mhm.
do you think we are? where are we in terms of the learning curve, and how do you think you will help corporations or professionals to, do this well?
Yeah, I think it's and fun. I think it's about sort of prioritizing the use cases, right, with a clear return on ROI, for operational efficiency gains, right? And so I think it's partly, how do you begin to look at starting with low-hanging fruit, right? Identifying those areas for automation or tasks ripe for AI-powered improvement, right? So you want to sort of consider the ability to scale the solution, and its potential for future innovation. So I think prioritizing enterprise AI use cases involves a strategic approach, right? You want to look for areas with a clear business value. And that's what I, sort of advise clients, right? And vendor clients as well too, such as automating repetitive tasks, like I was mentioning before, or improving process accuracy, so starting again with that low-hanging fruit can demonstrate the value of AI quickly and sort of build momentum, right? Additionally, consider, the scalability of the solution and also potential future applications that, to maximize the long-term benefits, so focus on, several use cases for AI, prioritizing those first, so where's there going to be the high impact and clear ROI, right? What's the benefit or the potential of automation? What's the data availability and the quality piece looks like. So it's focusing on those areas. Like I mentioned before, customer service is a clear area. I sort of mentioned in passing things like fraud detection, predictive maintenance, but I think most people can get their hands or their minds more around the customer service piece, because that really involves people, and really, and it aids the bottom line when we talk about customers and customer experience. Yeah.
Other than customer services, fraud detection, what are the other use cases have you seen most recently, given the uptake of,
Mhm.
ChatGPT, generative AI, as, Sam Altman or OpenAI announced
Yeah.
that the enterprise or corporate use has been, increasing.
Yeah.
Where do you see kind of beyond the immediate low-hanging fruit on the near term or medium term
Mhm.
horizon? What do you see
Yeah.
as an advancement at this point?
Y- and it sort of gets back to, I think one of the key things for companies, and this is where we see a lot of companies trip up, when they're thinking about their AI strategy. What should we do? It's data, because this, when we mention AI, it's really about data, right? I know we use AI, but this is, how does a company become more data driven, right?
Mhm.
And I think data availability and quality is going to be key, because success to me hinges on having access to clean, well-organized data, right? And so areas, where data is readily available for training and validating AI models are prime, candidates. That's why I always mention the customer service and the fraud detection. But again, things like, supply chain optimization, right? Where the AI can, sort of analyze historical data and real-time logistics info to optimize maybe inventory levels, right? And delivery routes. Things like document processing, right, where AI can automate tasks like data extraction, classification, and summarizing large volumes of documents. So again, it's really about data. And so how does a company or enterprise, or become more and more data driven when we're talking about making better decisions and fostering innovation? It's data is going to be the key there. So it's all about how orgs can become more and more data driven. That's, to me, what AI sort of boils down to. It's becoming more and more intelligently data driven.
So let's delve into that particular part in terms of um, summarization of large volumes of documents
Mhm.
or data, and
Mhm.
the quality of the data. As
Yeah.
LLMs or large language models have
Mhm.
superior capability to look at vast amount of documents and generate or summarize,
Mhm.
but at the same time, it has hallucination challenge. So do
Yes.
you see so do you see that somewhat in this process, LLMs can play a role working with data scientists or corporations to enable the data as a part of the full automation. Do you see where my question is? Is like, yes. I mean, traditionally, it's very costly for corporations to, storage the data, analyze the data, and write your own algorithm and all of that. Now you have AI as a service, you have LLM standing by and has this gigantic brain and processing power and does a fairly good job if you have the right structure, you call it a RAG or not, right? So do you see the game changer as in AI to enable AI, if that makes sense to you?
Yeah, and I think why, and thanks for how you or sort of characterize LLMs. I think that's spot on. I love the hallucination phrase, but no, because you're right. Because like LLMs, right, they excel at tasks requiring what deep understanding of language nuances, right, complex, context and creative text generation, right. And
Right.
I think but again, some of the limitations, as you sort of mentioned, they're costly. I mean, we're talking significant, computing power, making them expensive, to run and potentially limiting scalability for some enterprise, depending on the size of the enterprise, right? And the inner workings of LMMs, say that fast 5 times, right? Can be complex, making it challenging to explain the reasoning behind certain outputs. So that explainability becomes somewhat of an issue. What we are seeing, though, especially when we get to specific targeted areas and industries and so forth and companies where small language models, right? Again, because they're smaller, faster, and more efficient than LLMs. My goodness, I can't say that today, right?
Okay.
They're going to be, I think, in a lot of more sort of targeted, nuanced use cases, more ideal for tasks requiring real-time processing and clear rule-based decision making. And so I think we're going to see some of that more so in customer service applications, especially in areas like finance and so forth, where you may need something more rudimentary, more rules based, and more targeted for the specific industry. Yeah.
Wow. You packaged so much in a very short conversation. I hope the audience will come to the replay. I personally is going to listen to this over again because there's just so much. So, who are the ideal clients for you? And if anyone watch this, what's the takeaway for them to reach out to you on LinkedIn or your website, infloanalysis.com, right?
Yes.
What give an elevator pitch to the audience, how you help corporations in this context of AI and overall, human AI collaboration in workflow,
Sure.
and the future of
Exactly.
workplaces.
Exactly. Well, it's funny because my background, in terms of music, I rap. So in rap, rap is called flowing, right? So everything in my life is around, sort of flowing and being in flow and not being out of flow. So that's sort of my life thesis and and
Good
where I
thesis. I
always come
love it.
from. Yeah, right. And so with technology, it's just that, right?
Yes.
I help enterprise sort of focus in terms of end user enterprises focus their technology decisions based on, okay, what's going to help people get their jobs done. So whatever the process, whether it's HR, sales, marketing, finance, what have you, technology decisions and investments have to sort of look towards from the people back to what are the processes, what are the workflows, how are people actually working, and how can you help them get there more efficiently. And that's where I think technology decisions have to be made. And then the AI piece of it becomes a no-brainer because AI then comes, okay, how can we then automate some of their sort of tasks that they don't need to sort of spend more time on to give them time back to be more creative and innovative. And so it's technology enabling their process and then AI helping them to be way more efficient within that process.
Once again, how do people reach out to you, David?
So as I mentioned, my name is David Smith. So sometimes finding me is hard because there's a zillion David Smiths. And so, but LinkedIn, David Smith on LinkedIn. I am on Twitter. Was it X now? At Dave Mario. But in terms of my business network, LinkedIn is probably the best way to find me. And you can also reach me at dave@infoanalysis.com via email as well too. And happy to talk AI, digital workplace, tech. I can geek out on that stuff. And also I like to focus on sort of the people aspect of the digital workplace. I think that's where I think sometimes we get so AI happy that we forget AI. And I love your questioning, Helen, because you sort of really made sure to focus on the AI human collaboration. I love the way you put that. So that's I think has to be the focus.
100%. I
Yeah.
do think human is a big part of so-called artificial intelligence, and
Hmm.
people always, carry the data,
Hmm.
particularly in the enterprise workflow. I think that's more of a, data with intent. And if
Hmm.
somehow we could, scale the collaboration and bring AI into that workflow and to empower people, but also leverage the data in that process would definitely
Exactly.
make the enterprise AI more sustainable. That's for sure. And that's my passion. And that's why I talk with innovative leaders like you, David Smith. And thank you for introducing inflow analysis. So everyone, please reach out to David, and hopefully I will help you back in the near future as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much. And thanks for having me again. It's been great.
For sure.